Hi guys, today we're going to talk about different tenses. When you first start writing your story, the first thing you need to decide is if you're going to write in past, present or future tense. What genre you're writing for and what point of view you are using can help to decide which tense to use, but I'll talk about those in another video. So this might seem totally obvious, but first let's go into the differences between past, present and future tense. Past tense is an event or action which happens in the past. You can normally tell this because the verbs end in ed or are using the past tense verbs. Verbs such as ran, had and was. Present tense is an action or event which is happening right now. You can often tell if an author is using present tense because they quite often use I, has, runs and is. Future tense is an event or action which happens in the future and is not yet taken place. This is most easily shown by using the word will. Most authors write in the past tense, but quite recently a few authors have been writing in the present. I will be making a list at the end of this video just so you can look up different authors who are using the different tenses. In terms of future tense, it's really not common. However, if you do choose to do this, you would stand out in the crowd. Now that we have the three simple tenses, these then get turned into four subcategories. This is simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. So this next bit might seem like a bit of a list, but I'm going to go through the four different subcategories and then I'm going to do the pros and cons of the past, present, and future tense within that section. When you are writing your story, you will generally choose a past, present, or future tense, and then you will mix and match with the four categories depending on what you're trying to convey. So first, past simple. Past simple is used to describe an action or event that both started and finished in the past. So the entire story is in the past. There is nothing moving into the present or the future. Number two, past continuous. Past continuous is used to describe an event or action which was interrupted. So for example, this is where you would often use was. So she was writing until the door slammed open. Bad example, but that's an obvious way to find this one. Number three, past perfect. Past perfect is used to describe an event or action which happened in the past prior to the event that you are currently describing. This one often uses the word had. So for example, she had been writing until blah 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 blah. I know these are bad examples, but you get the gist. Number four, past perfect continuous. This is used to describe an event or action that was completed in the past. So an example of this is I quit smoking. I had been smoking in the past. So you're sort of talking about this past event which has happened, but just going through the motions. So it's continuing on. So pros and cons of past tense. So pro 1, when you write in the past tense, you are able to move around in periods of time. You can skip weeks, days, or even months if you want to. It will not jar the reader to do this, as long as obviously you're not jumping constantly each chapter. Pro 2, most books are written in the past tense. Therefore, readers are used to reading stories in this tense, so they shouldn't be put off or distracted from the story that they're reading. And pro 3, it's a strong position to describe everything around the story. Because it's happened in the past, you can describe exactly where the character is and what was around them, possibly with more detail than you could if the character was in it. Because if you take this to real life, when you're describing something in the past, you can quite often remember details you didn't know you'd noticed at the present time. Cons of the past tense. Number 1, it can slow the story down. Because it is in the past tense, everything's already happened, which generally means a lot of ed verbs. This means that the reader can be driven out of the story, which is when show versus tell comes into play. If you tell a story, the reader will become bored because it's already happened. If you show the story, the reader can get sucked into it and feel like they are there even though it happened in the past. Con 2. Because it is written in the past tense, the reader can generally presume that the narrator or the point of view main character you are using will survive until the end of the story, which takes away a little bit of the tenseness because you sort of know they're going to live. And now let's get on to the present tense. That was a lot to take in, so let's have a pooparoo break. Hello, Winkles. How do you look? How are you? You wrinkly face. I can see your wrinkles. You see your wrinkles? Okay, and now let's get back to it. So, number 1, present simple. Present simple is used to describe an event or action which is usual or repetitive. Number 2, present continuous. Present continuous is used to describe an event or action which is happening right now. 3, present perfect. Present perfect is used to describe an event or action which happened prior to the event right now. And finally, number 4, present perfect continuous. This is used to describe an event or action which happened in the past but is continuing right now. I know I speeded through that list quicker than the past, but as you can see, it is the exact same meanings but in the present tense rather than the past tense. If you chose to write in the present tense, you could mix and match the simple, perfect, continuous and perfect continuous. Same as if you write in the past, you can mix and match the subcategories there as well. They are used to tell different parts of a story. So, pros and cons of present tense. Pro number 1, the immediacy within the story. Because you're writing in the present tense, it is happening right now. So the characters don't know what's going on. The reader can't know what's going to happen. They will all find out together at the same time. This can make the show versus tell less of a problem because you can't tell because you don't know. Pro number 2. It's sometimes easier to create characterization because in the present tense, you quite often use I. So you are the character. Everything the character does or thinks, the reader is reading as they're thinking it. And now for cons. Con number 1. You cannot, in present tense, hop around in time. If in present tense you choose to miss out a section, you would therefore have to be doing some form of past tense in that, which means your book will be going between tenses. You can do this. It is not outlawed for you to mix a tense. However, the more often you do this, the more confusing and jarring it can become for the reader. And con number 2. When you're writing in the present tense, it can be hard to tell any backstory. Sometimes this is a good thing, because sometimes you don't need the whole backstory. And finally, let's go into future tense. So, future simple describes an action that will take place in the future. Number 2, future continuous. This is when the event or action you are describing in the future will be interrupted. 3, future perfect. This is describing an event or action which will be finished before something else happens. And number 4, future perfect continuous. This describes an event or action which has a duration and will end before something happens in the future. I will have finished writing my book by the time I publish it. So those are the 4 categories for future tense. So here are the pros and cons. Pro number 1. If you write in the future tense, you will get noticed. There are not many books out there, if any, which use the future tense. Therefore, if a reader wants to read the future tense, you are probably one of the only authors they could go to. Pro number 2. Your concept is fluid. So because you're writing in the future tense, it could go wherever you want. Nothing has to match where a character is in the past or present because it is the future. Anything can happen in the future. No one knows what happens in the future. It has to come for it to happen. You could do anything you want. However, future obviously has some cons. So here's con number 1. The reader might not feel invested in the story because since you're writing about events which haven't happened and aren't currently happening, why should you worry about them? We always tell ourselves in real life, it's the future, you can't do anything about it yet, so why worry about it? It's the same if you're reading about those characters. In the future, your character might be eaten by a giant space monster. But it's the future, therefore not definite, therefore the word might has come in. Might happen does not have the same tension as will or has happened. Con number 2. It might be jarring for the reader because they are not used to reading the future tense. If you're not used to reading something, you'll generally notice when you are reading it. An example of this actually goes to present tense. With more authors writing in present tense now, when I first started to read some present tense books, I found it jarring for the first 2 chapters because I had to focus on getting into the story and not focus on them using the word I, which most of the time is forbidden in all forms of writing. In any academic writing, you cannot say I. Past tense, you cannot say I. Then there's I all over the page. It's a bit odd when you first start reading it. After a few chapters, I was sucked in and it's fine. With future tense, you could have the same problem, and this could make a difference between someone picking up your book in a shop and reading the first chapter, and whether or not they take it home to continue or just put it back on the shelf. So those are the 3 different tenses and the 4 subcategories. So to recap, we have past, present, and future tenses, and within those we have the subcategories of simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. Don't get hung up on what tense you're going to write your story in. Think about your story, think about what you want to convey to the reader, who your characters are, what genre, and what you want to convey. Generally, you'll find you will naturally gravitate towards a certain tense in your writing, but it's always good to practice writing in the various different tenses just to improve your writing skill and to definitely see which one would suit your work. A way to do this could be to write the first paragraph of your book, write it in the past, present, and future tense, and see which one works best for conveying the information you want the reader to pick up. This not only helps you to practice your writing, it also means you can actually see what your story would look like in each tense and make the best decision for your own work. But now, let's give some examples of books written in different tenses which you could go and read yourself to help you decide on what tense to use. Sadly, I don't have any future tense books. I searched my bookshelves. They're not the only ones, there are more over there. I don't have any. So if you want to write in future tense, go do that and then I can use your book as an example. But these are some very famous books. Some of them are brand new, some of them are older, that use the past and present. Yes, I did just get up to get all of the books I use as examples. I have a thing right now with coloured pages, don't judge me. I like them. First we have The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This is written in the present tense, so if you are looking for a really modern book which is using the present tense, this is one you should read. 2. The Toy Makers by Robert Dinsdale. This is written in the past tense, so if you're looking for a really good book which uses the past tense, I highly recommend reading this one. The list goes on. I just couldn't decide which book best to show you, so I chose a few of my current favourites. We have Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is written in the past tense, and it has red pages. It's not useful, but it's red. It's so red. The Binding by Bridget Collins. This is written in the present tense, and it's purple. Deep Light by Frances Hardridge is written in the past tense. The Confession by Jessie Burton. This is also written in the past tense, but has red pages. Let's go a little bit back in time now. Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling, 1997, is written in the past tense. And my final example is The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock by Imogen Hermes Gower. This is written in the present tense with blue pages. Seriously, the new theme of having coloured pages in books, I am in love with it. Please keep colouring them. If a book has coloured pages, I am probably 80% more likely to buy it just because of the coloured pages. It works, guys. This is a marketing technique. It is working on me. So, a lot of those examples I gave you were modern books written between 2017 and 2019. All of the books written in the more modern day were past or present tense, whereas older books have generally always been in past tense. Present sometimes for younger readers, but for older readers, it was always past tense. If you are interested in reading any of those books, I will write a blog on the same subject and I will put a picture with the title and the author of each of these books for you to check out at home. And that's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for watching my video on tenses. I hope you found this useful. Just remember, don't stress. Take your time in choosing your tense. If it all goes wrong and halfway through you decide you need to change tense, I'm not gonna lie, it's a ball ache to change the tense of your book once you've started to write it. However, it is not impossible. Editing can always happen and you can always change your mind. Just bear in mind it will take a while to get it all back into the correct tense. If you like what you see, please subscribe to my channel. If you want to see as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell down below. You can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram or Tumblr. I post general bookish pictures as well as my general tips. If you want to see my tips in written form, as I mentioned before, my website link is down below and I will write a tense blog. So if you're interested in any of these books or you just need the lists of the different tenses in written form, they will be on there. Click the link below and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!